back now with Brandon's barn. Brandon lost to Van Unana last week. We took her back home. Well, didn't quite take her back home. We took her to Ohio, made some changes on her. She's in to go and pick to win at Northfield Park in a short field. Tomorrow night, I will be going. I got nothing else to do. Drive home from Ohio, go to Georgia, and wake up, go to Northfield Park. I think my co-pilot Ollie's going to come with me to Northfield Park tomorrow night. We're going to race Havana Unana, and then I'll be coming back. The goal is to race her, see how she feels, and then get her in to go at Indiana. So Brandon has Beach Bum BB, Jailhouse Master. Both were in a little bit tough last week in the straight condition. Both will be dropping down in classes back. I think Jailhouse Master will fit a cheaper trot, and Beach Bum BB will be back in the condition claimer next week, I would hope, for where she did rather well the week before. I'll tie some of these in together. Scott D. Domenico's burn, obviously. Scott is really blue chip. I found it so depressing and so frustrating, as I'm sure our clients, that she made a break. This is a filly that has excelled on a smaller track and left very, very quickly out of the gate. To believe that she would just up and make a break is hard to believe. Now, I do get some bad news. I said I would go drive her on the Monday. I looked. That is the night that Brave World will be racing in the Gold Cup and Saucer Eliminations in Prince Edward Island, and I'll have to be on Prince Edward Island. So I'm going to ask James, who's gone with her all throughout the winter, to go with this filly. I suspect it's just a matter of snugging up her hobbles, making sure the gear's on properly. And the obvious question is, well, couldn't Scott eyeballing the hobbles is not as easy as it looks, and even I changed them quite a bit on the track. James knows this. James knows the filly. Although he never raced her with hobbles, he knows how the hobbles need to go on. So I think if I can talk James into it, and I'd like to hear from our clients, because it'll cost $800 or $900 to fly James McDonald to Monticello to drive her. Probably going to race for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. It would be worth it. But the alternative, considering what has taken place when I wasn't there, is upsetting. I would love to say, I'm not going to go to PEI. It wouldn't be fair to the people that purchased the horse to race at PEI. Not to mention, my flight to go to PEI is Sunday. So, obviously, when things like this happens, it really throws a bucket of water on me, because I just assumed Really Blue Chip would race good, and I wouldn't have to go drive her anymore this year. That seems to be falling apart. So I'll talk to Scott, and I'll talk to some of the bigger owners of Really Blue Chip, just to let them know that I can maybe talk James into going, maybe not, but I might be able to talk him into going, and then we'll see. He has the open trot here on Monday nights too, so he may not be able to go. Anyway, we'll see how it works out with Really Blue Chip in Monticello for Monday. I'll try and formulate a plan and get something figured out in the coming days. Be right back. No, I don't. I'll just keep going with John. So, John Boot and Shane stable next. John Boot and Shane has Stonebridge Simba racing Thursday at Philadelphia. Rooney Blue Chip's going to be coming home. John he says mentally he's just not quite there still yet, which is understandable. We only just castrated him. We'll bring him home and train him a few times here and see how he feels. The time off probably did him some good, as far as not having to race and train. Probably did him some good, so I'll be excited to see him come back home. We'll get a real good look at him. I would suspect he'll be back by Wednesday here in Ontario. Miss Mischief Maker's now out in the field with Bottle of Red together. They're buddies, actually. They're out at Sean Brisebois, a client of ours, a good friend of mine. Built a brand new field for these horses. They got woods there, and it's nice. So both these fillies are out for a little bit. Miss Mischief Maker's going to come back in. She has some stakes later in the year. I'd like to give her 3-4 weeks off and bring her back and see how she feels. If she doesn't feel like we're making giant gains, then she can go back out in the field for the fall. Harness AM, we had a startling discovery with Harness AM at the track the other day. We've scoped her every time she's raced, because especially for the people that are involved with Harness AM, she's let go a little bit in almost every start we've raced her, seemingly without reason. Scope her clean. Scoped her the other day, there was blood. And I would suspect this filly, see, the scope will go all, I said this the other day in the video, the scope will go all the way down to the split in the airway called the bifurcation, but the scope doesn't go into the lungs. The lungs are big, and if that blood, if she's bleeding deep down in her lungs, that will compound and compound and compound, and eventually you'll see this blood. And I think that's what's taking place here, is this filly has bled a little bit, not enough where we'd see it up in her airway after the race, but enough that it
There's a mobile speed camera ahead.
That it would be a problem, and it is. So the best way to treat that is simply put her on Lasix. We will do that right away. She'll either race. Now, another thing was, one of our clients said, well, what about racing her in Kentucky rather than Pennsylvania? We already know how tough Pennsylvania is, and we don't know how tough Kentucky is. Now, this Thursday's out of the question. Racing a filly back in 7 days and it bled is just not going to happen. So we're going to watch the first race of the Kentucky Sires go, the first leg, and then we're going to gauge, where do we want to go? Pennsylvania with Harness AM, or do we want to go to Kentucky with Harness AM? I'm up for either. So we can't do both. They're too close. They coincide. So we'll see what John comes up with. Unless Kentucky looks really, really tough, I'm almost leaning Kentucky also, simply because we know how difficult Pennsylvania is going to be. There's literally 3, 4, 5, 6 fillies that can fly, probably more, that can fly in Pennsylvania, and I don't want to get in their way. So Harness AM will probably go there. Libero Hanover, clearly a little bit sick his last start, still getting over something. John will have him ready to go for this Thursday in Philadelphia. So that right there, I may as well do Andrew while I'm here. Andrew has 2 horses left. Knockdown Dragout, Cruising in Style. Cruising in Style looked great the other day. Jogged 153-2, new lifetime mark. Wrapped up going under the wire. You love to see that, and he looked really, really, really good. So obviously Kevin did a great job prepping this horse. Andrew did a great job racing this horse. This is exactly what I wanted to see with this colt. Latter part of the summer into the fall, a strong, sharp Cruising in Style. And then Knockdown Dragout, Andrew said he's made some gains with her feet. They start to look like they're bothering her less, and he believes she'll be ready to go soon enough. So that is Knockdown Dragout, Cruising in Style. That's Andrew's burn, that's Tim's burn, Brandon's burn, Scott's burn, John's burn, and that's all of them. That's it. No, Jason's burn. 1 burn left. And I'll have you on your way. Be right back with Jason McGinnis.